Hi guys, on Sunday Boris Johnson pulled the plug on his campaign. He and his supporters claimed that he had reached the 100 MP threshold, but the former Prime Minister ended his attempt anyway to take over from Liz Truss. Now, in his statement he said that he wanted to provide unity in the party and that if 2/3 were not behind him, it would be impossible for him to get his policies through the House of Commons. The problem is that there's no independent verification of the alleged 102 MPs backing Boris Johnson. It is more likely he missed the requirement, and in order to save face, he said he was doing it for the party. Well, if unity is what he's after, it may not be the case, as perhaps his biggest supporter, Nadine Dorries, thinks Sunak can't rule. Have a listen to what she had to say when she spoke to Boris Johnson's sister, Rachel, on LBC.
How do you feel about his decision, Nadine?
I think we've lost a great Prime Minister. You know, one of the two people who will succeed him are risk averse. And
I called them gun shy earlier. I mean, I said gun shy. I mean, I was thinking to myself, I think we do need a general election. I don't think you can hand on a mandate from one leader to the next. I think it is going to be difficult for Rishi, if it is Rishi, to govern, even if the party does unite beneath him. But I don't see Rishi calling a general election. Do you?
I don't think he'll have a lot of choice, particularly if it's a coronation. So if Rishi becomes automatically Prime Minister by Tuesday, I think all hell will break loose because he has no mandate from the people. No, he's lost every election that he's gone up for. So, you know, he lost the leadership election with Liz Truss. He hasn't won this one. He won't have gone to the members for a vote. And I think it will be very, very difficult for him to sustain the pressure not to go for a general. He has no mandate whatsoever to be Prime Minister of this country. Now, you know, Tony Blair handed over to Gordon Brown, who's been his chancellor for a very long time. We got away with it with Liz Truss, and because we could cite the Gordon Brown, Tony Blair case. I don't think that the country would accept having another Prime Minister who has no vote from the people being imposed on them. So I do hope there is a vote that goes to members. If it doesn't, then I fear we will very quickly be into general election territory.
Whoa, okay, so I don't often agree with Nadine Dorries, but this time I do. And yes, there will be a lot of pressure on Rishi Sunak, if he becomes the leader, to call a general election, especially if there is this coronation where it doesn't go to the party members. Now, she's correct where she said that, it was handed over to Liz Truss. And look, this is nothing really to do with general elections. This is internal party rules. And yes, it's possible for the Prime Minister to change, but the difference here is that so much has changed since 2019 that there should be a general election because the manifesto is in the bin. There was about levelling up, getting Brexit done. None of that has been achieved. And Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak, who's going to take over likely, are going to go in the opposite direction. So Liz Truss was about levelling down. Rishi Sunak is going to be returning to the days of austerity. So this is the opposite of the 2019 manifesto. So he needs to put it to the people. Once again, it's not about internal party rules. It's about what you present to the public. So you had a manifesto that you won an 80-seat majority on back in 2019. To respect democracy, if you change that manifesto, then you need to put it to the people once again. This thing about Tony Blair and Gordon Brown is a red herring. It's about these internal rules that the parties have because you vote for the party, you don't vote for the Prime Minister. Yes, Boris Johnson presented himself as the manifesto in a sense. You're voting for Boris. People thought they were voting for Boris. No, they were voting for the party, and the party chose Boris Johnson as the Prime Minister. So what's going to happen to Boris Johnson after this is probably the interesting question. And his supporters, like Nadine Dorries, well, I have a feeling they're going to be sniping from the sidelines because they're going to be upset that their golden boy didn't become leader once again. And they're going to blame Sunak and others for not supporting Johnson, and they'll, we'll be going back to the Boris Johnson was stabbed in the back sort of rhetoric that we heard just over a month ago. And Johnson is going to be the type, or Johnson and his supporters are going to point the finger at, and point out in their eyes the fact, as they would see it, as, every problem that exists is Rishi Sunak's fault. And if Boris Johnson had been voted in instead, then you wouldn't be facing those problems. So when austerity starts to bite once again, Boris Johnson can stand up and say, it wouldn't have happened if I had been Prime Minister. Or his supporters will say that. So I think this is going to tear the Conservative Party apart. And if there isn't a general election, I think you'll have to have one. The government will eventually collapse. So it depends on how Boris Johnson and his supporters act going forward. Are they going to rally behind Rishi Sunak? I don't think so. But if they do, then Sunak should be pretty safe. But if they don't, then it's likely the government will collapse, or he will have to call a general election in order to save his skin. Either way, it's not very good. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.